Let's face it, traveling at the end of 2021, not the easiest thing. Cruising at the end of 2021, it's a little complex. And as you know, when things get complex, people tend to make mistakes. And so, interesting show today. I've got 5 mistakes that cruisers and travelers are making right now. Let's talk about it. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Lido, Loca. I'm your host, Tony, here with a list of 5 mistakes that cruisers and travelers are making right now, along with some real-world examples. And look, today's show is a sponsored show. We're getting some help with the bills. Let me tell you about today's sponsor. Today's episode is sponsored by Babbel. What is Babbel? Babbel is a new way to learn a foreign language. It's the comprehensive learning system which combines effective education methods with state-of-the-art technology. What does it mean? That means that it was designed by experts in language, experts in education, and it's delivered on your mobile phone, making it one of the easiest ways to learn a foreign language. Give yourself 15 minutes a day. You can learn a foreign language, and it caters to multiple types of learners. Are you auditory? You can learn through a podcast. Are you visual? You can see the words in front of you. There's games to play. Every kind of learner, there's a path when it comes to Babbel. I just recently made this discovery on the app. Not only do they have lessons like straight up vocabulary, but I'm in this lesson about getting around. So let's jump into it. I'll show you what it looks like. One of the easiest and cheapest ways to get around in a city is to take a bus.
Vamos en camión.
Vamos en camión. Let's take the bus. Whenever you're taking public transportation, don't forget to buy your ticket.
Compro los boletos.
And Babbel's got a great offer for the Loca fam. Get 65% off of Babbel, less than $5 a month to learn a language. The link is in the description below. It's in the first comment. Download Babbel, learn a language today. Thank you, Babbel, for supporting the show. All right, so the first mistake that cruisers are making right now is not understanding the requirements for traveling to the cruise port or traveling to their destination. Real world example, we had a friend that came from Canada down here to Florida. Not our friend Don Terrace that you may know, but another friend. He was coming to Florida to hang out with his family, and he doesn't live close to the airport. Let me just say that. And he got all the way to the airport without the realization that he needed a negative test to get on his air flight. So he was stranded in the airport city for 4 days. Stranded is probably a strong word. He had to stay in the airport city for 4 days while he went through the testing process. He lost 4 days out of his vacation, and just because there's a little confusion around what was required. If you're flying, if you're taking a train, I had to learn all the train rules before my last cruise. Make sure you know what the protocols are. Make sure you know what tests you need. Make sure you know what documentation you need. Make sure you know what if you need a mask or not. All that stuff so that you don't get denied your ability to get on an airplane or mode of transportation. It's super important. This is a mistake that I've seen online a lot of travelers, a lot of cruisers making right now here in 2021. The second mistake that cruisers are making right now is they do not know their pre-cruise testing requirements. It is tumultuous. It is chaotic. The protocols are changing from week to week, and it is up to you, the person who spent the money, the person who is the traveler, to stay on top of all of it. You cannot, in the past, you could just kind of show up at the cruise port and everything's usually okay. That is not the case in 2021. A very tragic story that I followed. Disney Dream just went out on her first cruise, and Disney Dream, one of the requirements is that if you had children with you that were unvaccinated, you had to bring a negative test result with you to the cruise port so that they would be allowed to cruise. Now, those same children were also tested at the cruise port, but it was a double testing process. It was on you to bring a test to the cruise port, and then Disney was going to test the kids at the cruise port also. I read this very long saga about a poor dad who missed that testing requirement on the front end and did not realize he needed it until he got to the cruise port, and him and his family were taken out of line, put in another line, line, and the heavy realization that they would not be going on vacation hit them, and they were in all kinds of challenges just trying to figure out what to do next. And sadly, they were not alone. It sounded like there were maybe 10 or more families in that situation where the information was out there. It may not have been as in their face as they'd wanted it to. But yeah, if you have any doubt about your testing requirements before you go on your next cruise, you better call somebody. You better look on the website. You better call customer. Like, if you have any doubt at all, make sure you know for sure, because there's no bending these rules. That was just the sad reality. The guy said, look, I didn't get these tests for my kids. Does this mean that I'm not going to get to go on a cruise? And they quickly told him, yes, it means you will not be able to go on this cruise. So challenging time, but the buyer's the one spending the money. The buyer's the one that has the onus to make sure that they have everything they need so that they can go cruising. And the cruise lines I'm assuming they'll help you as much as they can. But if you don't have your basic documentation for testing, you're not going to be able to cruise. Number 3 somewhat goes hand in hand with number 2. You have to know the vaccination requirements for your cruise ship right now. Some cruise lines are trying to cruise at 100% vaccinated. Some cruise lines are trying to cruise at 95% vaccinated. Some cruise lines are trying to cruise, it doesn't matter how much vaccinated, and you got to know what those things are so you know how it affects your cruise. Let's use Carnival Cruise Line, for example. They're cruising at 95% vaccinated guests, and what that means is for guests that are unvaccinated or have kids that are unvaccinated, you got to have an exemption, and that exemption process happens way before cruise day. So if you're on Carnival Cruise Line and you're unvaccinated, or you have kids that are unvaccinated and you've not gone through the exemption process to make sure that you can still cruise, you got to do that. Because if you show up and say, well, I just thought I was going to be able to cruise, or you get to your online check-in process a few days before the cruise and you haven't gone through the exemption process, then you could be like in for a rude awakening that you don't really have a cruise anymore. We've seen examples of that in the newspaper where a lady said, oh, I thought I was good, but then when I went to my online check-in, my cruise had been canceled because I did not get an exemption for my kids that were unvaccinated. That could be a shocker. That could be disappointing. And so, the other thing when it comes to vaccines is you got to make sure that the vaccine that you have is acceptable to the cruise line. There's been some challenges, especially for folks that are coming out of Canada that may have a mixed vaccine. They may have an AstraZeneca for one shot and a Pfizer or Moderna for the second shot, and not all cruise lines are taking that. Again, and I'll say it for most every one of these, you got to make sure that you've checked with your cruise line to understand exactly what you need to cruise. They're not going to have any leeway to help you onto the cruise ship. And so vaccine status, and again, the other thing, what is it? What do you need to bring for your vaccine? Can you bring a digital copy? Do you have to bring the paper? There's a lot going on with cruising right now, and a mistake that people are making are not thinking about it. And so make sure you understand where you're at from a vaccine perspective. Number 4 on my list is that people do not understand their insurance requirement. This is a big deal cruising out of Florida. Unvaccinated passengers have a requirement for insurance that covers COVID. And so that's one thing. But again, let's just say this. I think all cruisers should have cruise insurance. I didn't think it was smart in the past to cruise without cruise insurance. I don't think it's smart in this circumstance at all to travel without cruise insurance. I know that opens up a lot of questions. I talked about insurance on a previous show, and the questions come, what about the insurance that the cruise line offers? What about insurance that's offered on my credit card? What about, what should I get from a perspective of cruise insurance? I can't answer those questions for you. What is the sufficient amount of insurance? Because honestly, each cruiser has to go through that for themselves. You have to decide, what do you need coverage for? So an exercise that I did, I wrote down all the worst case scenarios. What if I broke my leg? What if I got sick on some cruise? What if I needed to be medevaced? What if my cruise got canceled? What would take care of my airplane and my hotel before the cruise? What if my luggage got lost? And so what I found through that exercise is I like the third-party insurance. I know credit cards have insurance. I know the cruise line offers insurance, but I like the comprehensive comprehensive kind of cruise travel insurance that you find with some third-party vendors, where you can get all those things that I mentioned covered. So again, I really can't be prescriptive about what kind of insurance you should get or who you should get your insurance through, but I would say, look, try to get something that's got evac, try to get something that's got medical. You definitely got to get something right now that covers COVID aspects if you're buying insurance, lost luggage, hotel stays. You can find insurance for all of that. Again, for me, the one I've used primarily, Allianz, Allianz. I'm not endorsing that. It's just the one that I've used the most, and I've never had to file a claim, so I don't know what the process is, but there's a lot of places that you can look for insurance out there. The main message I want to leave you with, though, is get the insurance. Compared to what you would have to pay in the event of a catastrophic event or even a minor event, those costs can be super high. Even in the show the other day, there were people in the comments saying, yeah, I would have had to pay $10,000, $20,000, but I'd spent $200 on insurance and it wasn't a big deal. Nothing's a problem until it's a problem. Big mistake right now if you're not getting some sort of travel or cruise insurance. Do it. That leaves us with one more big mistake that cruisers are making right now here in 2021. Before we get there, let me quickly invite you to subscribe. If you like staying up to date with everything that's going on in cruising, cruise news, cruise tips, all that's going on cruise ships, please consider subscribing with the notification bell on. It doesn't cost you anything. It really helps the channel out, and we sure do appreciate it. Notification bell on. That way you don't miss out on any of these episodes. Thank you in advance. And now the fifth mistake that cruisers are making right now is they're unfamiliar with the shipboard, the onboard health protocols. It could cause some embarrassment. It could cause some stress. Again, like all of these other protocols, all the cruising in 2021, it's tumultuous, it's chaotic, things are changing quickly. Be familiar with your protocols on board. There were some cruise ships that a mask was not required, that now a mask is required. If you want to be hassled by somebody to put on a mask, then make sure you know where you're supposed to wear a mask and where you don't have to wear a mask. If not, you're going to have some poor person hassling you to put on your mask. If you're cruising unvaccinated and there's a spot on the cruise ship that you can't go, don't go there. These cruise employees are not going to risk their job to accommodate you if you're in a location that you're not supposed to be in. An example that I've talked about before, I was on the MSC Meraviglia. The aft bar was for vaccinated people only. The back of the ship bar, vaccinated people only. We had to wear our magic vaccinated wristbands, and so I was there having a beverage, and somebody came up without the magic wristband, and they were like, I would like a beverage. And the guy was like, where's your magic wristband? And she's like, I don't have a magic wristband. And he's like, well, I can't serve you a drink. And she's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go get the magic wristband. Can you just serve me a drink? And the guy was like, no, I can't. And so it was a weird exchange, right? And so if you don't want to be in those kind of weird exchanges, know exactly what you're supposed to be doing on board. Again, I had a couple times on that ship where I came in from the outside, I'd forgot to mask up, and then I got some poor person that their whole job now is to look at me and tell me to put on a mask. It was awkward for them, awkward for me. I know they were just doing their job, but I wouldn't have mind avoiding it if I just remembered to put on my mask. So it's important. Don't make that mistake. Know what the policies and procedures are on board so that you have your best cruise time. Now, certainly there are other mistakes that cruisers are making. Jenny and I did this video years ago talking about 10 mistakes that first-time cruisers make. I've got that linked above. Make sure you check that out. And let me kick this question over to you. These are 5 really essential mistakes that are happening right now on cruise ships. Have you seen any other? Have you had any experiences with this? Have you been cruising in 2021? How's that going for you? Leave a comment below. Thank you so much for checking out the show today. Please show your support by hitting the like button. Another big thanks to today's sponsor, Babbel. Check out their link in the description. This is Tony with Lido, Loca, and until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido. Bye.